Spending 2.5 months behind bars hasn't stopped the rumor mill from churning out new stories about P. Diddy. The latest, that the disgraced music icon is responsible for actor Jamie Foxx's mysterious hospitalization last year. New allegations say Diddy could have poisoned Jamie Foxx, and apparently Foxx is telling all in his upcoming Netflix special. But could there be any truth to these allegations? And if not, are we looking at a new defamation case? We'll break it all down with attorney Joe Richardson, who says the Diddy conversation is far from over. We're inching closer to the 3-month mark of Diddy calling the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn his home. And after last week's third bail denial, it seems like that's where Diddy will be staying, at least for the foreseeable future. He's being held there on federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Federal prosecutors allege Diddy was the mastermind in a sex trafficking scheme, with some reports saying his alleged illegal activity dates back to the early 90s. Diddy's accused of drugging dozens of victims, sexually assaulting them, and recording it as a means of blackmail to keep survivors quiet. But now those same recordings are being used against Diddy. They're even mentioned in the federal indictment against him. It seems that civil suits against Diddy are being filed weekly at this point, as more people continue to break their silence. And it seems that the latest person to call out Diddy is none other than Academy Award-winning actor Jamie Foxx. Foxx made headlines in April of last year when his daughter Corinne announced he was recovering in the hospital. But what exactly he was recovering from was a mystery. By May of 2023, Foxx was out of the hospital, recuperating at home, after he was reportedly treated in a physical rehab facility in Chicago, with a focus on strokes and brain injuries. Last summer, Foxx addressed his health issues for the first time, saying he'd been to, quote, hell and back. He explained only a bit more, saying he had a headache, then got an Advil from a friend. After that, Foxx said he was, quote, gone for 20 days. He didn't appear in public until December of 2023 to accept a Critics' Choice Association Vanguard Award. Foxx still didn't say exactly what happened, but revealed he couldn't walk for a time during his recovery. Jump to this year when Foxx recorded his comedy special. It's called What Had Happened Was, and is supposed to premiere on Netflix. It was during a stand-up routine performance in Atlanta that Jamie Foxx taped this. That was back in October. Now, the special hasn't been released yet, so we aren't totally sure what he says, but according to some audience members who were there at the taping of this special, Foxx mentions his illness and connects it to P. Diddy. 3 separate audience members told Page 6 Jamie Foxx mentioned Diddy in the routine, blaming Diddy for his health issues. 2 audience members also spoke to the Daily Mail saying the same thing, adding that Jamie Foxx apparently contacted the FBI about P. Diddy. All of this was also discussed on an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. It's a long-form podcast that boasts more than 2,000 episodes and more than 18 million subscribers. On this particular episode, Joe Rogan spoke with his guests, Shane Gillis, Mark Normand, and Ari Schaefer, about Jamie Foxx and the allegations. We don't have the rights to the podcast's audio or video, so we can't show it to you, but here's what was said. Joe Rogan said, quote, Jamie Foxx just recently said that P. Diddy poisoned him, and that's why he got that stroke. He talked about it on stage. He talked about it on his Netflix special. Rogan went on to say, quote, bro, I think there was some crazy stuff going on. I think murders, alleged murders, a bunch of people got pneumonia, a bunch of convenient people died of pneumonia. Mark Normand also chimed in, saying, quote, Jamie Foxx said I didn't have a heart attack because of the vaccine. It was Diddy shutting me up. Here's where we're going to turn to attorney Joe Richardson to make sense of all of this. Joe, thanks for coming on with us today.
Good to see you once again.
So right from the jump, what do you make about these allegations that P. Diddy may have poisoned Jamie Foxx?
Where do you start? I mean, there's a lot of allegations surrounding what P. Diddy may have done because it seemed like a lot of people around him dying. Kim Porter died. Al B. Sure almost died. There's a lot being claimed. Andre Harrell died. So, there's this backdrop of not only what he's dealing with criminally himself, but all of these other things that have happened with other people that have been around him. Coincidence certainly makes for interesting news, which is why we're talking about it. Jamie Foxx also said what he said during the filming of what is a comedy special, And so representatives have said, well, he was just joking, etc. But he hasn't gone out of his way to say, hey, I was joking. This was not serious, that kind of thing either. So you really don't know what to make of it other than the idea that this is just another allegation related to things around P. Diddy that have had health problems, if not died altogether. So there's some sensationalism to it, but there are some ironies, some coincidence, and you're not quite sure what to do with it.
All of this comes out of Jamie Foxx's upcoming Netflix special. And as you pointed out, it's obviously a comedy routine. He's being funny throughout all of it. But we don't know, as you said, whether he was joking about this or if it was more of a somber tone and he was being more serious. If that's the case, and he is being very serious and saying straight up, this is what happened, could he face any sort of liability for making these allegations against P. Diddy?
Yeah, I mean, sure, there's an argument that there could be defamation, right? Because, defamation would be, in this case, maybe it'd even be defamation per se, because certain things, certain areas, some things that have to do with someone's profession, things that have to do with a couple of other areas, damages would actually be presumed. But the question becomes whether P. Diddy would really have that on the front of his queue, as it were, to deal with that. Because not only can Jamie Foxx maybe say it was a joke, but so can P. Diddy, right? And so that's probably the way to pass it off for now, particularly given he's got bigger fish to fry.
I'm wondering if it's the same situation for Joe Rogan too, because he brought this up on his podcast that has millions of people who watch it on YouTube or listen on their phones, wherever it may be. It's going out to a huge audience. And he actually throws around the word murder, says that P. Diddy may have murdered some people. Do you think it's kind of the same situation there? Oh, I could have just been joking and Diddy is dealing with other stuff?
I didn't hear how exactly Joe Rogan termed it, but when he says may have, you know what I mean? He's speculating. He's now a reporter, right? He's not necessarily a person that's saying this is what definitively happened, and therefore we ought to connect to that. It does beg this larger issue, though. The Joe Rogans of the world, the Alex Jones, all these other folks that allege conspiracy theories and the extent to which this is damaging enough to actually create defamation causes of action. We saw how that went with Alex Jones. And so there's a question as to whether something would be out there that way. There's one question is how he terms it. The other question is, what Diddy actually does with it? Because once again, we're in a situation where he's got a whole lot of things he could be dealing with. And would he put this at the front, even if there's assuming there's some potential gray area? But most of the time, if damages isn't presumed, you got to demonstrate damage. Defamation is harder against people that are already famous. And he's already got a lot of things being said about him that aren't so good. And so there's a chance that this kind of gets lost in the fray along with everything else.
Hey, you watching our video. I'm going to take a guess and say you or someone you know is a business owner, maybe even starting some sort of side hustle you're trying to build. I have to talk to you about our awesome sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is a free all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of apps that help with the day-to-day of owning a business. One of my personal favorite Odoo apps is their project apps. There are multiple views in the project app, like the Kanban view. That one organizes tasks by the stage. Or the Gantt view. That one gives you a timeline of your tasks. Seriously, it makes things so simple and easy to organize. Also, in the Projects app, you can directly bill your customers according to time spent on tasks, which is really just a big time saver. Right now, you can click on our link odoo.com/lcnews16 and try Odoo and their Projects app for free today. Something else I wanted to touch on about all of this, you mentioned getting lost in the fray because obviously what we're talking about is P. Diddy and his federal charges. That's the big one. I mean, that is why he's at MDC as we speak right now. So that's probably the thing that's looming over him most of all. And now we're getting allegations that Jamie Foxx says he was the one who contacted the police, the FBI, and kind of tipped them off before Diddy's investigation and his eventual arrest. What do you make of that allegation?
He can say that until he's blue in the face. But what got the FBI going is that Cassie case. That's what got the FBI going. They had, for whatever they might have been thinking about before. The Cassie case kind of brought it live and in living color where they could really see how a criminal case could come together. Now, is it possible that Jamie Foxx or someone else contacted them, or that someone else that we don't know about that's famous got contacted by the police saying, or the FBI saying, we are looking at X or Y or Z, and what side would you be on it? Are you a potential defendant? Looks like you may be. Any or all of that stuff could have been going on. And there might have been some things where they were tipped off and some things that they saw to begin with based on their investigation. But I will still say that Cassie was the hook. A written out complaint that he settled based on the allegations alone within 24 hours. It was already publicly available information, and it was a roadmap. So it may have colored what was already being said, what was already being alleged, and it could have come from any of a number of sources, including Jamie Foxx. Theoretically, how do you express those things? How would you know these things unless you're there as well? Isn't there a possibility that maybe commonsensically, not even talking as a lawyer here, maybe that you are, taking a chance coloring everything that's going on with P. Diddy, but you're not there watching it or participating in it? Who wouldn't have that discussion with the police, the FBI, unless they absolutely had to? And I don't know if anyone would.
I'm glad that you brought up the Cassie lawsuit too, because I want to point out all roads lead back to her. And she's the one that we believe is mentioned in the federal indictment. She started this, and some of the future lawsuits that were filed after she filed last November, they even mentioned Cassie's lawsuit. Like, basically, Cassie gave us strength to come forward. So I think that's really important that you highlighted that aspect of it. But we know Cassie spoke with the federal investigators. I know that you mentioned we aren't sure if someone would want to speak with them as far as incriminating themselves, but do you think they could approach Jamie Foxx?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I am sure that some approaches that haven't made the news have occurred. I'm certain of that. These allegations that became the federal case didn't come out of thin air. There was speculation about Cassie for a long time. There's speculation about P. Diddy for a long time. So they didn't just come out of thin air. And the good news for the Jamie Foxxes of the world, or whoever, the J Lo's and all these folks, it seemed like the federal government's, the FBI's focus was on P. Diddy. And maybe that's where the evidence took them, but it was on P. Diddy. But that doesn't mean that they didn't get pieces. They didn't reach out and get pieces from people who they think may have been in the room or may have cause to say something in order to make sure that they stay out of the news, or that they're in the news related to these things on their own terms, like, for instance, joking about it during a Netflix special. I wouldn't put it past the FBI to have had those types of discussions, but there's no reason that they would necessarily be public on someone that was cooperative.
That's the interesting side of all of this. I mean, we're paying attention to this because prior to his arrest, P. Diddy was beloved. I mean, he was a Grammy Award winning artist. Everyone loved him. His white parties, it was great. And it's kind of a fall from grace now that we're watching it and seeing, okay, he went from mansions to MDC. But there have also been allegations about other celebrities that were involved. Some have been listed as celebrity A or B in civil lawsuits. So I think that's another reason why people are so interested in this case specifically, because there are a lot of names that we know just from reading People magazine. Do you think that there could be any defendants that are added? I know that you said P. Diddy seems to be the main target of the feds, but do you think they could look at some of the other celebrities?
I don't necessarily expect that on the criminal side. And I could be wrong, and anything could happen. I don't expect that on the criminal side. On the civil side, I think it's more of a possibility, because it's a good way for these particular people, these celebrity A, celebrity B, celebrity C, to keep themselves out of the news. To the extent that such things actually did occur, that they were a part of, that they participated in, et cetera, then maybe you would have that on the civil side. And I guess it would just be up to those plaintiffs to manage how they're, right now, P. Diddy seems to be the defendant. There's not a whole lot more famous defendants. The question becomes how those plaintiffs manage that, and what discussions they might be having to keep certain things from getting in the news. I mean, I don't think it's lost on whoever celebrity A or B or C might be in our mind that P. Diddy absolutely created a huge problem for himself, aside from if he did what was alleged that he had done, by not settling the case, the Cassie case, before the allegations became public. And so I would think that, depending on you pressing the right button, there are certain people that would know, take the message from that and say, if this has the potential to get hot on me, I'm going to write a check and I'm going to get out of Dodge and I'm going to get confidentiality and I'm not going to get talked about. Particularly if one in that category has an indication that they probably wouldn't be named criminally, right? Then if you settle it civilly before it becomes something, then hopefully put a lid on it and a bow, and nobody ever knows other than their idle speculation of the fact that you were at Diddy parties. Everybody in Hollywood/New York was at Diddy parties at one time or another. So in and of itself, that's not going to be a distinguishing thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of those discussions are occurring to keep those folks out of the news, with their handlers, their lawyers, etc.
We have seen some reports about all of that, that these celebrities that right now are unnamed settled before the lawsuits could be filed so that we weren't making a Law and Crime episode talking about them and name dropping them. So they're hoping to have their names completely out of the headlines. But then that begs the question, if the feds know about them and are talking to the victims that saw celebrity A, B, and C at these parties, they were doing things that were illegal, could these people be called to testify at this really public trial of P. Diddy that's happening in May?
Absolutely, they could be. But here's the good news: in federal court, you're not going to be on television. Because it's federal, there's something about being able to watch something in real time. And now people have impressions about it. People have impressions about it some other way. Now, listen, nobody wants to be in news about this thing. So if I'm Jamie Foxx or celebrity A or celebrity B, I might have an egotistical opinion about how well my painting, my drawing was done by the court artist. But that's different than me running in real time on television, getting cross-examined, getting grilled in front of America as opposed to in front of the jury and everybody in the courtroom. So I imagine that they would be saying that, if I have to testify here and that's my reality, that's where I am. But there are some ways to get out in front of it and be out in front of it, particularly if they're one of a lot of different people. It may have the potential to lessen the blow, particularly in a situation where America's not going to have the real-time visual that it would in a state court case.
That's a good point. It'll be interesting to see what celebrities are called if Jamie Foxx is called to the stand. And I guess for now, we're just going to have to wait and see what he does say in this Netflix special that's supposed to come out. For now, thank you, Joe, for coming on with us today.
Thanks. Always a pleasure.
In terms of the Jamie Foxx allegations, Diddy's team denies having any involvement. P. Diddy also denies the other allegations brought against him, too. He's pleaded not guilty to those federal charges. Right now, Diddy's federal trial is set to begin in May of next year, and Jamie Foxx's Netflix special is set to premiere on December 10th. For Law&Crime, I'm Gillespie.